Share my screen. Hello, everybody. Let me look at the names. Hi, Fran. Hi, Henrik. Hi, Jeremy, Nyla, Tina, and some other people that I don't know, or maybe I know you, but welcome. So I'm going to start. I hope I'm doing everything right. So today I wanted to record and share my insights since I learned more about Kaballah through David Ghiyam. And basically, I have a habit of actually being in these workshops or retreats and actually creating live videos on the day itself, because it feels to me that when I look back, I can remember the energy of the retreat or the workshop or the transformation that I was going through. So those of you who know me from my Tony Robbins times, when I went to UPW, I was creating these before and after videos, and they were so impactful. When I went to, like, Henrik and I, we went to internet boot camp. Um, and we saw, and still have the videos. They're very, very impactful, to see the team that I was in was one from like many, many teams. So it's very beautiful to have these memories. So what happened when I was introduced to David Ghiyam through Lewis House? I had like so many light bulb moments and so many, like, I don't know, huge shifts in myself that I really felt I need to delve into this. And being honest, I actually have been reading the Kabbalah book when I was really young. I really don't remember how old I was, but I think it was the time when it just came out, that book. And literally, I remember I was wearing one of these red things around my arm. And I don't even know who gave it to me. I forgot. But I remember that I was really young. Maybe it was like 25 years ago or maybe 30 years ago. And I was reading the book about the invisible and the unseen. And I was like, I didn't get it at all. Imagine that I was then an empirical headhunter or tax lawyer. I don't know which one I was, but I was in my head. I was a mental, not in a negative way, but I was very intellectual. And it took many years of study, including studying, quantum physics through Deepak Chopra, and then through all the Jungians and all the people that were talking about the observer effect. And then finally, Dr. Joe Dispenza, who made it very clear to me that there are multiple dimensions, and that we can create from the field. And so this is why when I was listening to David Ghiyam, it was impossible for me to not make all the connections and to actually really hear the Kabbalah teachings from all the synthesis of teachings that I was studying for many, many years. So, and it was so interesting that actually every time I listened to David, I felt like I knew what he was talking about. And some of you here have worked with me before, and especially with my teachings and my classes around releasing Lester Levinson, David Hawkins, and how I combine it with quantum constellations. Those of you really know that everything that David is talking about is actually referred to by other teachers in other ways. And so this is what I want to share, and also share from my really personal experience, because without the personal experience, I think it becomes a bit like intellectual. And what I love about David is that he's so personable and that he talks a lot about the things that were really difficult for him and how he transformed. And I feel that when we give that information, you can feel it for yourself and maybe also take an example from that. So I try to keep it on time because sometimes I don't keep time and then I completely lose the plot. But that's what I don't want to do. I want to talk about my personal experience about listening to David and how that impacted me and how I could mirror my experience with his. And today I actually really want to go into crisis because that crisis, loss, pain, and suffering and victim consciousness and how we try to change things from this old identity. And, the Dr. Joe students here know that that is our work. But I really feel that, when I started following David and I started listening to him and all these synchronistic videos came to me that I had to feel, that had to make an impact on me. They came onto my screen and they literally all of them had a huge impact on me. So I want to talk about that. And so there is actually this part there's a part of this content that I cannot cover today because I think we just don't have enough time. So this is why I feel this is the part one. And that is because I want to honor your time. And so just be aware that we're recording this. So if you do not want to ask questions that are very personal, please don't do so and don't ask questions, live, unmuting yourself. Maybe send me a message so that at one point I can answer them at the end. But right now, I would love to just show you what is going on with my absolute what is it? Admiration of Kabbalah and how it has changed my life. So ever since I followed David, I was really aware that I don't want to do anything from lack. I don't want to do anything. Like literally every time I was so aware that most of the time I am following my impulses, but it's coming from an impulse to want to achieve an outcome. Yeah. And of course, when we're running our own business, this is really, that's what you need to do. But ever since I was listening to him, and I really love how he teaches about how you can run a business, how you can go into meetings, how you can go on dating websites or whatever it is, you can go there from wholeness. So I was telling myself, I'm not going to go to the David Ghiyam workshop in Paris from lack. So I sent my business partner, Elle, a message. And I said, I'm not going to go because I feel like I have this fear of missing out. And I have a very strong, intellectual drive to go through to every workshop. But I literally had to contain myself because I recognize this feeling in my body, which is fear of missing out. Angelique, if you don't go, you're going to miss out. And some of you might have this as well. So I think, while you're listening to me, try and understand how the teachings can really immediately be implemented in your life. So what I did was I said to my business partner, Elle, I'm going to work on my fear of missing out, coming from lack and wanting to go because I feel I'm going to lack if I don't go. So I'm going to not do it and I'm going to wait for a sign. And then she sent me a message saying, here's your sign. And I said, ha, ha, ha. So I said, I'm not going to do it. And then without knowing it, the next day, my husband, Thomas, we were in a shopping mall. And for the first time ever in the shopping mall, and I lived here in this city since I was 12, there was a sign in a big clothing shop, and it says, if you're waiting for a sign, this is it. And then I thought, that's my sign. And then I sent it to Elle and I said, and this is what Thomas sent me without knowing I was waiting for a sign. I bought the tickets now for David. And she said, what? Oh my God, could it be more obvious? And then I was like, laughing because the universe is so beautiful. And then I said, good thing is that because I was okay with missing out. I was not in fear of missing out energy. So I think if you really listen to this, you start to understand what this letting go principle is about. How do we let go? And how when we don't let go, things literally run away from us. Yeah. So throughout this whole presentation, I want you to pay attention to, on the one hand, how we usually think, how we label things, events, circumstances, others, or ourselves. and which in Kabbalah they call the voice of the ego or the opponent, and shockingly also Satan, and or Dr. Joe calls it the program, or the conditioned mind, the 1%, the 1%, which is this is really like this, the 1% is creating my reality, and I think that that's reality, but it's actually not even reality, it's an illusion. So when you start to listen to this whole presentation, start to put aside and observe how we usually think about crisis, loss, failure, betrayals, burnout, people who ghost us, people who betray us, people who steal from us, people who don't treat us the right way, and also how we then judge ourselves and how we judge others, versus how Kabbalah teaches about why things happen. So David, in one of the many podcasts he has, says Kabbalah is really about the soul level. We're not talking about personal level. We're not talking about body level, material reality level. We're talking about why the soul is experiencing certain things. And so I want you to start connecting to the voice of your soul, the 99% that is the truth of whatever is going on in this world, which is not easy because the voice of the ego or our programs, it's very loud, and it's just, it's very powerful, and it's very cunning. So how did I run into David? I don't think I've ever heard of him, but he was on the Lewis House show. And he said, he literally, I was very, very drawn to how he was talking, because of course he was very spiritual and he was a successful entrepreneur. And what I loved about him is that he was an entrepreneur that wasn't earning money because of transformation. He actually earned money because he created a product together with his wife, who is now divorced from. But then he was sharing this big transformation opportunity moment where, he experienced a fraud of $1.1 million. And he was sharing that in that moment, he applied what he knew he had to do, which went against what his body was saying. His body was in like anger and frustration, wanted to go to the FBI. And instead, he went against the program. He went against the 1% of the reality, because he has been a teacher for 25 years saying that everything that happens to you is good. Yeah. So basically, when I heard that he was saying, thank you, Creator, this is good, Creator. Thank you, Creator, this is good. And that he accepted it, although his body went against it. I really felt this connection with him, because I remember that I have these inner battles where I know something, but my body wants to go somewhere else. It wants to go into victim consciousness, retaliation, punishment, making somebody suffer, maybe make somebody go into jail, or or get a lawsuit or whatever. So I was really like, I was very impressed, but it was more than that. It was him explaining that anytime we have a setback, it is to cleanse you spiritually from negativity accumulated in many lifetimes. That very much resonated with me, and I will tell you later why. This was a message that came in while I was, for I think 3 years, I was in this condition where I felt I was a victim of a specific financial setback, where there was a specific person that had done something to me, and this person is still, not punished. And I was feeling a lot of frustration and a lot of anger and a lot of victim consciousness. But when this video came that said, when you have financial loss, when you have a lawsuit, when something gets lost, It is actually to cleanse you spiritually from negativity accumulated in many lifetimes. Something in me really like felt that that was true. And then he continued in that video. It was a very short video. It builds this setback, this loss, this fraud, or this this betrayal, whatever it is. It builds your vessel, you, who you are in this body, for more of the miracles that the Creator wants to give you. And then he continues, complaining and blaming delays the process of cleansing and miracles. And ever since then, those two videos, there was something in me that could let go of this victim consciousness that was like a big program running in me. And I can tell you, like, I know a lot, but as we know, knowing is not enough. You can know it all and you still feel like a victim. You can know it all. It can be in every retreat, every meditation, be manifest everything. But there's certain areas in your life where you are literally, your body says, this is not right. This should be different. And so the main principle of how I started to look at all the tragedies that appeared in my life, all the people that I didn't want to forgive. I literally didn't want to forgive them. And there's still a lot of people that I don't want to forgive, a lot of people that I would never trust. I would never, ever, give them, I would literally be guarded. There's people that I have on a blacklist, right? And I want you to think about, like, who are the people on your blacklist? Who are the people that you still hold a resentment against? And so, but ever since these two videos crossed my path, I literally felt this peace in me. And so I was thinking, what happened here? What happened here? So this is the David Hawkins scale, and I always use the David Hawkins scale to teach because I feel that it really is a map of transformation, of where we get stuck and where we have to elevate. So something happened when I heard the information coming from David. And I think that I went from anger here, which is in the 1% of the illusion of the appearances of the world. Appearances is purely a consequence of the projections of my consciousness. This is the science of getting rich. This is how Michael Bernard Beckwith teaches us about what is reality and what is appearances. And everything under 200 is us unconsciously manifesting. And every time we are under 200, we are having to blame. So if we want to change something, it is the other person that has to change, or we have to do something. We have to literally sue them. We have to talk behind their back. We have to do a lot of stuff to actually get this other person to change. Whereas if you go to the higher realms of consciousness, which is the 99% of really also where we could be living, literally miracles could happen. But the way that I've seen it in my life, and when I work with people, and when I really analyze how people are manifesting, when they have the big breakthroughs, that is when they go to acceptance 350, which is forgiveness. Yeah. So when you read the book Letting Go of David Hawkins, you can look up the chapter of acceptance, and I can tell you that is really what I'm experiencing. It's like everything that chapter is explaining is what I've been experiencing because of what I felt from my soul, not from my ego, that despite the illusion of me being, betrayed, being, I have somebody who stole from me, who lied to me, very willingly, willingly, whatever that means. Whatever that was, I knew somehow my soul remembered that there was much more to the story than what happened in this lifetime. I knew that, and I probably know, and all of you who have done theta healing work or regression therapy or whatever it is, that this is not our only life. And we have been the perpetrator, we have been the saint, we have been the rapist, we have been the killer, and we have been the priest, and we have been the holy man or holy woman. So to me, it felt like, okay, this person did this thing to me. It's fine. It's fine. I don't have to go into, stay here in the 1% of the illusion. I literally want to let go of this so that I can expand my vessel and expand my consciousness. So, so those of you who understand the David Hawkins scale, it's very telling that if you are not going to accept and let go and see even the worst of the worst that happened to you as something that you can accept, and not like, I'm not just talking about intellectually, I'm talking about physically. If you cannot do that, then you're literally going to manifest that it happens again. So David has a really scary video, a reel where I was really like, I better do this work. So, and I know this because I study family constellations work and I do a lot of constellations work with my clients. And he said, and I completely understand that he said, you know, if you have a horrible relationship with narcissist, then, you know, you can divorce the narcissist, but the narcissist is saying something about you. And if you don't deal with this narcissist looking inside of you, what it is saying about you, you literally are going to manifest narcissist around you. So it could be your boss, and then your boss leaves, then you go to another job, then you have another colleague that is a narcissist. So let's say, and then you go away from that job, and then you have a husband, and then the husband is a narcissist, and then you leave the husband, and then you have a child that is a narcissist. And this has to do with the fact that, you know, time, according to Kaballah, and according to some new science, is not linear. It is circular. Yeah. So time is like a sphere. So a sphere is something round, and in the middle is the present moment. And the present moment, you know, and is happening at the same time as the past and the past and the future, but everything that is not resolved in the present moment keeps radiating out into all these in the future and the past, so that the information stays the same. So this is a little bit of a difficult teaching, but just so that you know that we are going to take our consciousness with us, whether we want it or not. And so I was thinking, why could this one man that I never heard of, David Ghiyam, in one video and in two videos literally have such an impact on me? And I looked into David Hawkins, and David Hawkins explained it. So this has to do with the consciousness of David Ghiyam. Yeah. So I have a feeling that when I was listening to him, he was somebody who has solved this life problem. And because of that, he had a life problem that I was still confronting, but because he had already resolved it, so he was on a higher level of consciousness, so he was in acceptance at least. So their inner accomplishment influences us non-verbally, so that our lower level energy, my anger, is replaced by a higher thought form. So this higher thought form is also me. It's part of my soul. It's not the 1%, it's the 99% that we're part of. This higher thought form that's also us sees this problem as a golden opportunity. So it doesn't try to, you know, make this problem go away. It just sees it as a, wow, this is an opportunity. What we saw as a loss or a tragedy before, now we see as a gain because of this energy transmission. The facts have not changed, but how we view the situation has changed because our level of consciousness shifted. And how the shift occurred not because of the words spoken, but by being in the presence of the aura of loving people whose energy field carries the higher wisdom. But it's mostly because he literally, every time he encounters a problem, he literally says, this is good. He even has, you know, he even teaches his kids affirmations to say, when it gets bad, it gets good. Yeah. So if you know about David Hawkins, this is a very, very famous quote. But what I want to say is, when I created this title, the title was Conscious Manifesting Beyond the Ego. You have to understand that this identity that we carry with us is most of the time when we are still programmed, we're still conditioned, or our nervous system is still calibrating in these numbers or states of being. This is literally us creating from ego. And this is why we can never get what we want. Yeah. So those areas of your life where you're feeling these states of being, it is because you're stuck in the illusion. You think appearances is a mirror, and the mirror should change and not your projection. So that is the illusion. So the answer is going inside and reclaiming more and more of who we are, which is in the invisible, unseen quantum field. That is where our power lies. So this whole love affair with the unseen, the invisible, the unknown, it's really, really, that's where the magic happens. So the other thing that David also really, really, where this really, really impacted me, because I recognized it, because I experienced it before. He said, before a big breakthrough, you have a breakdown. Yeah. And I will share with you how this was true in my own life. And he said, your ego feels I'm broken, I failed, you feel confused and heavy, and then you think, oh, I'm going to go into depression and maybe a burnout. And our ego will try to avoid this because we're in survival, right? But your ego's voice, the 1% of you, whatever it's saying is never true. And those of you who are studying, who did work with me, studying releasing and Lester Levinson and David Hawkins, your ego is always telling lies. It's always a recording and playback machine. It is basically recycled consciousness that will keep coming back, and it will not ever say anything new. And so in order to break through these, let's say, these limited states of being, yeah, we have to have the breakdown. And that is really where I think I had such a big breakthrough, because I now am not trying to avoid breakdowns. I see breakdowns as necessary, because in the breakdown, in the heartbreak, in the bankruptcy, in the crisis, in the pain and the suffering and confusion, you are dismantling the old version of you. And that is what happened to me. But I'll share that in the next slide. He said, you are not off track, because often when we manifest what we don't want, we're like, oh, what did I do wrong? And this was literally me for all these years before I got to know, Kaballah. So I felt that I was failing, that I was doing something wrong. And I was looking in all the, the teachings, like, how can I do this differently? But actually, what if when everything is breaking down, you are receiving a new soul and something is being rebuilt? So this is the affirmation he gives to his kids. You can look on his Instagram. He literally is playing with his kids, and he is yelling when it's bad, it means it's going to be, and then his kids have to yell good. Yeah. Not only is everything good, everything is whole and complete now. So imagine, take this very literally. Not only is everything good, so betrayal, war, things that were really difficult to accept for people who are judging the world in morality. The law of good also is taught by Michael Bernard Beckwith, in his school. The law of good is a really important teaching of Kabbalah. And when you actually really can live in the consciousness of everything is good, and you have to transform your state of being to allow in the sensory feeling of knowing that everything is good, not going into panic, not going into resistance, not going into this, not in your stomach or feeling worried or panicky. When you really, really can do that, then you can say, I have certainty that I'm receiving my new soul. But I know that this is not easy. And this is why I want to share this with you, because I want to share, some of the things that I learned studying many techniques, but also how I applied it to myself. So why do we, why is the world not perfect? Why do we do all the work? And most of the people that I know in in the communities that I'm in, we're all doing the work, all of us, all the time. We spend the most money on personal development. So why is it that things happen that we don't like? And it is the explanation is that our souls came with baggage into this world, and that doesn't sound new. And according to what you came with, which is your soul's tikkun, it will determine how you react. So how your program runs. Understanding your specific tikkun helps you break free from patterns that have persisted despite your best efforts across lifetimes. It's very important to know that the tikkun is not a punishment. Its purpose is to progress our soul and help us reach our highest potential, and that we wanted this as souls. Life will start to make more sense even when we are facing challenges. So you don't look away from challenges, you actually face challenges. This happens as 350 from acceptance and David Hawkins scale, because we know that those difficulties are there for a reason, to allow us to transform those selfish aspects or these limited aspects from previous lifetimes. So if you look at the difference again between the most of the tikkun that we have is about lack and is about not feeling enough or judging other people or trying to control people. So when you look at the release technique and the school that I was in, we literally say that there's three main programs that we run, and the program is wanting control, wanting safety, and wanting approval. And that is all feelings that we have, all feelings of uneasiness or wanting approval, wanting control, and wanting safety. And when the ego is in that 1%, it is trying to chase to get approval, control, safety, love, or whatever it is. We seek validation. Please give me attention. Please buy me. Please like my post. Please date me. Please choose me. We fear loss. And it helps so much if you know that this ego, this 1%, is is actually a distortion from the truth of who you are. In the Paris workshop, he was talking about that. Imagine that you are 100%, but because of your tikkun, you came, and the tikkun makes you only embody, let's say, 25%. Yeah. So your soul is already there with all the blessings, all the miracles, all the best case scenario timelines. But your soul is talking to you, but because of the tikkun, you can literally not see it or you cannot hear it. So let's say your soul says, you can do it. You can overcome challenges. You can achieve whatever you want. It is already done because, creation is already done in Kabbalah, because they have a beautiful teaching that says, fulfillment precedes desire. Your desire exists because it is already real in the invisible world. It's a quantum potential. But because we have tikkun and we're in this illusion of the 1%, we don't hear it. We literally hear the program. And this is where our soul wanted to come down, and we said, I want to earn. I want to earn this expansion. It's too boring to come to an earth where if everything I wanted would happen immediately, then there was no fulfillment. So the whole theory is that we came here to actually have this limitation, and we wanted to forget, and we actually really wanted to earn, and it had to be hard. And this is why the ego, the opponent, or Satan, or the program, they're so strong and they're so real, despite the fact that it's only 1%. We could only grow because of the opposition of the ego, because there would be no growth or fulfillment if we didn't have challenge. Yeah. So if you understand that, then you can, every time you are going back to the program of fear and lack and instant gratification, you actually do the opposite. You don't try and take action in the material world, which is the 3D world. You actually start to embody a higher state of being, and you embody more of the light of the creator, as they say in Kabbalah. So instead of chasing, you attract and you let go of what you attract. Very important. You don't try and vision board. You don't try and mind movie. You don't try and change the box. You don't try and journal it into being. You actually attract it, but you also let go of how it is going to come or whether it's going to come in this lifetime. And instead of seeking validation, you give love. Yeah. So those of us that have been studying releasing and Lester Levenson's work, we are giving love and appreciation all the time. Appreciation is also a very big, important teaching for Abraham Hicks. They have a teaching that says when you do 1 month of appreciation every day, your whole life will change. And if you do it for 6 months, your whole life will be so changed that nobody will recognize you. And so Elle and I, we ran the appreciation game. And we saw miracles. We saw people changing. And it is because, all these techniques, whether it was releasing with Lester Levinson or whether it was appreciation game or whether it's Dr. Joe's work, we are moving to actually out of the ego. We're going into the realm of the soul. Why did I put in we let go in red? And I think it is because when we are manifesting from the ego, we actually are more attached to the outcome than that we can let go. And maybe I'm just talking for myself. Maybe I'm projecting onto you all, but I definitely can say that I am a very goal-oriented person. And I have been obsessed about reality creation. And those of you who are in my groups, you know that I'm always posting about testimonials of people winning lotteries, people manifesting the house, people manifesting bread, people manifesting whatever they want instantly. And I was always trying to hack this. So me letting go of this power, of this creative fun and the juices of creating, that's a big thing for me. But maybe there's more that we can say or that we can experience about letting go. But I think for me, it was even more, clear that the more that I'm holding on to what I want, and with this, with this lacking energy, the more that it's gonna elude me. And so we'll have a beautiful story from one of the participants in the Paris workshop that you can watch even in the Instagram of David, which will absolutely tell you exactly why it doesn't work. So one of the big teachings is, and this is what I'm teaching myself now every day, and I talk about it with my husband Thomas all the time. Our fulfillment is not dependent on external things, and when you really apply this wholeheartedly, this is the consciousness that aligns you with the creator, which is the source of infinite abundance. And so some of you might think, oh, this doesn't sound right. What do you mean, my fulfillment? I need the money. I need to pay the bills. I want to get married. I want my soulmate, blah, blah, blah. I want to, be a New York Times bestseller, whatever it is. So it is important to know that actually, when you are in the ego part of the dimension, you just have very limited power, and you're signaling to the field, as Dr. Joe would say, you're signaling lack. And in the release technique, they also teach us that, whenever you want something, you have wanting energy, that's desire. And desire in the David Hawkins scale is in the physical realm, is in the part of the I want it, but I can't have it consciousness scale. So this is why when you really want to manifest things, you really have to go to 350. And there's actually ways that I can demonstrate to you how 350 acceptance really works, which is you are okay with having the best case scenario outcome, and you are okay with not having it. And when you have that in your consciousness, in your energy field, it can literally drop in your lap. And that is what the release technique was teaching us. And this is what, I've been a student of that school for more than 10 years. And I've seen many people manifest doing that exactly. And this is why when Kaballah came into my life this year, I was like, wow, this is just the release technique. This is just exactly what I've been studying and been teaching. So, but Kaballah just adds another layer of explaining why we have to go through the crisis and why we have to forgive the narcissist and maybe even send love to the narcissist, and why we have to let go of wanting too much and always going back to the 99% reality that you are whole. There's nothing that you lack. So as I said again, we came here with garbage. We came here with, the 75% missing, and the 75% missing makes us feel lack and fear and wanting control, wanting to judge, wanting people to be punished, wanting people to suffer, maybe feeling bad about receiving things ourselves. That's all our garbage. Yeah. So we are here not by accident. Each one of us came here to rectify our tikkun. We came here to become whole again. So our sole job is to basically expand that 75% that's missing. So the obstacles are not mere obstacles, they are essential components of the test that we have to undergo. And Kaballah explains that there are many levels of the soul ascension, and I don't know enough about it to actually explain that, but I think, it's not going to be one lifetime, unfortunately. So, but if you're wondering, why are these bad things happening to us? It is happening so that we can expand. And so when David spoke about before the big breakthrough, you have a breakdown, I was thinking about the biggest battle that I had to work on, which was my lack of self-esteem and my anxious attachment in my love life. And so I had a dark night of the soul in 2020. And I was experiencing a very painful breakup where in my 1% of the world, he ghosted me. But I understand now that he was supposed to not respond to my text messages and that it had something to do with me. It was my consciousness that made him not respond. But imagine that in that time, I was doing all the spiritual work, the healing work, but actually I was not letting go. Most of the work that I was doing was to get him back. Yeah, because getting this ex back meant that I was worthy, meant that I was not needy, meant that I was healed, meant that I wasn't rejected, because that was my program, that I was rejection material. And those of you who know the Chinese culture, girls are not really up there in the Chinese culture. A lot of girl babies are given away. So I carry this tikkun of choosing to be born in this family, in this culture, where the feminine wasn't really valued, and where I was in a family where I literally was choosing parents that were going to trigger my abandonment and fear of rejection stuff. And if you look at the family line, there's abandonment, 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 all over the generations. So this was the perfect family for me. And of course, despite all the work that I was doing, despite me manifesting lots of great things in other parts of my life and seeing all my clients manifesting things, and even clients that manifested their husbands and soulmates and saving their marriage, my own life was not in a good state because I was still not letting go, and I was still manifesting from the ego. And for you listening, when are you manifesting from the ego? You are needing something outside of you. Something outside of you has to be given to you, yeah? Or has to be done to you. Something outside of you needs to change so that you can feel whole, safe, worthy. So this didn't work. I was 49. I had spent a lot of money on healing, on workshops. It failed, it failed, it failed, it failed, it failed. When did it stop failing? When my business partner, Elle, and we were both teaching the appreciation game, and we looked in our love life and we said, we are not walking the talk. 5 years later, we realized we're now with I'm with my husband, Thomas, for 5 years. She's now with her partner, Mit, for more than 5 years. They have beautiful twins now. We now see what we have done, but it took us 5 years because Elle and I, because we had such a heavy tikkun of not trusting relationships, that is actually, it took us 5 years to actually say, actually, we're really different people now. Whatever we manifested and healed and cleared, it actually worked. But if you looked at what we did in the 6 months that it took us to basically literally clear up this garbage of relationship, rejection, and victim consciousness, we looked at how we avoided responsibility, and responsibility is a big word in Kaballah, but also in the release technique in David Hawkins, and how we were completely identified with victim consciousness. Our whole body, our thinking, we would literally go into a trance in victim consciousness. And so I think this is important that when you are working on yourself, you need to actually maybe have a third person that can pinpoint to you where your victim consciousness is showing up. Because when you're in victim consciousness, you are literally in a trance and you cannot identify it. You might feel that you're in it, but you might think, oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It means actually that other person has to change, and I am justified in feeling like this. And so when Elle and I cleared this, you could look at my life. I had a huge breakdown. Everything I did with my ego and soul wasn't working. Everything that I was doing, manifesting from the ego, it didn't work. Why? Because I was in that 1% realm. I was coming from force. I didn't have enough power to change and shift the quantum field. To change and shift the quantum field, we have to go to the 99%. So if you look at your life and you're thinking, how is this going to work for me? Think about all the things that you don't want, and think about how maybe you have to break down to reclaim parts of your soul so that you can have a breakthrough. Moments of darkness and uncertainty are opportunities for transformation, and they're the only times that we can actually make a huge leap. And so in the beginning, when David was talking about the sages, they really looked forward to these moments. I was really like, I'm not sure I'm ever going to get there, because, I like my peace. I like, stability. I don't really want, maybe I don't want to be in the fast train of expansion and ascension. But there are people that are so imperturbable, as they would say in the release technique, or so unlimited, that they look forward to these challenges, to these crises, to these tests. And but if you find yourself living them because your soul decided that it was time, know that you are going to what is it? You're going to pass the test when you call forth new aspects of your soul, the 99%, this upper scale of the David Hawkins scale, and that you are going to welcome the Creator's infinite light. So one of the big new teachings for me was also that darkness, stress, and pressure is actually that there is a lot of light. There is an excess of light. And there was the metaphor that David is always giving is that you are a bottle and with a cap on, but you're in, so basically you believe you're the bottle, but actually the bottle is empty, and around you is the sea, and the sea is this surrounding light, and the surrounding light is the light of the Creator. But because you have a cap on, it cannot come in. But imagine that you let go, or that you are forced to let go because of the crisis. Because no matter what manifestation technique or manipulation technique or forceful technique you're trying to do, how much you're complaining, it doesn't matter how much you're making this other person wrong, it's not changing them. Imagine that if everything breaks down and your ego strategies are not yielding results, that is when you're going to let go. So there is a very famous quote in one of the Kaballah books that says, we have a choice to actually create our lives through responsibility and transformation, or the other one is through suffering. And Dr. Joe says the same, right? We can grow in with willingness and joy, or we can grow through crisis. Actually, it's so astonishing how all the teachers are saying the same things over and over again. So this is a big thing about those of you who are very, very still in the mode of, oh, but I still want to manifest this. I still want this though, and this is another thing or a person or a goal. Career, money, relationship, health, yeah? So in the release technique, they teach us there's nothing wrong with the feeling of having it, yeah? Something goes really wrong when we start to feel we need it, yeah? So the training in our body, in our nervous system, is to not feel that you need it. The training is to be in acceptance, which I said, you are okay with having it. It would be wonderful to have it, and you are okay with not having it. But most of us, when we are feeling the need to have something, and when we're in crisis, where it's about somebody leaving us, losing a job, not being able to pay the rent, or, all of these things that are threatening us, we actually go into this, nervous system shock where, we go into panic attack mode. And I had many panic attacks. This is why I had to go into so many trainings that were somatic. But when we are in these states of being, we actually repel the thing that we need. And you would be surprised, but actually, when you start to stop and let go of wanting or needing this thing from this lacking scarcity feeling in your body, and you really, really wholeheartedly can say, 350 David Hawkins, I'm okay with having it. I'm okay with not having it. The things will magically change. Yeah. So of course, most of us Dr. Joe students, we've been obsessively studying all these testimonials. I even have a little Telegram group where we're studying testimonials. And I noticed that a lot of students, there were a lot of healing testimonials where the students manifested the healing when they stopped meditating to heal. Yeah. So when you start to see that trying to do all this spiritual work because you're trying to achieve something, this is really where the tikkun is being expressed, yeah? The lack, the fear, the program, the soul correction that we need to face over and over and over again. So those with health challenges, in those testimonials, you see that these people for many years maybe were trying to heal this thing, and then they looked, went to the doctor, oh, your blood work, blah blah blah, and they were feeling defeated. But then some of them, because their soul wanted them to win, they at one point received a message, that, hey, what if I let go of trying to fix and change, or this thing that I want to change, and I'm just going to focus on feeling gratitude. I'm just going to focus on feeling whole. And so this is, of course, this sounds so common, but I think in those areas of our lives where we have this specific tikkun correction, it is a bit harder. So I'm not saying that this is easy. I'm just saying that there are multiple techniques to help you do this, so that you can, basically change this program. So I just want to look at the time. I would like to take a little break of 5 minutes. I'm going to play some music, and I will share something about the music later on. But if it's okay, we're going to play some music, and then we're going to be back in 5 minutes, a little short break. And if you want to put in your questions so that maybe later on I can answer them. Okay? Um,
this longing in me, all my blessings, all my desires already mine in the unseen. I let go of doubt, with certainty I receive what's already been given. This longing in me, all my blessings, all my desires already mine in the unseen. I let go of doubt, with certainty I receive what's already been given to my soul that believes. Ooh, I have certainty beyond logic, unwavering faith when my mind can't see the path ahead. Uncertainty's a portal for transformation, calling forth new aspects of my soul, welcoming the Creator's infinite light. The unknown is part of a divine plan, perfect and perfectly designed for me. Everyone and everything divinely tuned to support my growth and set me free. Certainty beyond logic, unwavering faith when my mind can't see the path ahead. Uncertainty's a portal for transformation, calling for new aspects Transformation isn't about changing what's outside. It's expanding my vessel to receive what's been mine. All this time, all this time. Ooh, oh, I have certainty beyond logic, unwavering faith when my mind can't see the path ahead. Uncertainty's a portal for transformation, calling for new aspects of my soul, welcoming the Creator's infinite light. I let go of doubt, with certainty I receive what's already been given. Ooh.
Hello, everybody. If you have questions, please feel free to put them in the slide. I won't say your name, so you can ask me anything. So let me start recording again. Wait, am I recording or not? Okay, I think I'm recording.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks God. Thank you, Jeremy. Nice to have you here. So, why is 350 so fundamental? This is from Letting Go. Yeah, that book is more easy to read than Power versus Force. So imagine that Kaballah also teaches that if you do not take responsibility, which is 200, if you believe that you're a victim and that you didn't cause, you were not at cause, you will stay in the 1% of reality. And if you understand that actually acceptance 350 is very, very big, it's actually, some people think, oh, it's enough to take responsibility at 200. But actually, through all the years of doing work with many people, including my own transformation, I was really seeing that 350 is the turning point. Yeah. Why? Because you can see here, neutrality 250 of trust, and willingness is 310 optimism. But imagine that you can take responsibility but still not trust. And trusting is where our tikkun or our soul has undergone trauma. Yeah. So maybe we were persecuted, or maybe we were the persecutor ourselves. So these things, are not easy to overcome. So if you look at me, I had a big breakthrough at 49, and that was not because I did the work for 1 year, 10 years. I literally did the work for like 20 years, yeah, 25 years, or maybe many lifetimes. So, but this trust thing, when you actually look at trust and you understand the teaching of Kabbalah, then there's way more trust. It is more easy to trust. Why? Because you understand that it is an illusion. This 1% of this person, these people that are rejecting you, abandoning you, betraying you, not giving you the job, or booting you out of the startup, whatever it is that you're dealing with, that is the exact test that you need to actually go to acceptance, and which is forgiveness. Maybe your tikkun is forgiveness, and definitely I can say that my tikkun was forgiveness, because I was very unforgiving to a lot of people, and of course it came in a way from my family heritage, and I can blame my family, but of course it was also just me. But yeah, so if you really look at acceptance and you talk about taking full responsibility for your life. So all these people that you would like them to have the worst karma, you would like them to suffer, you would like them to actually have a horrible next life, or, never learn the lesson. that is actually really still being stuck in the 1%. When you are in 350 and things start to flow, everything starts to shift, you are taking even responsibility for the horrible things. And those of you who are in the release technique, either with me or with other teachers, they absolutely urge us to take full responsibility. And this is also what Kaballah does. You understand that everything is your picture. Wait a minute. How do I how do I share the screen? Wait a minute. I thought I was sharing. Like, let me do it again. Screen. Can you see it now? Yeah? Okay. So this is the slide. When we are really taking full responsibility, this also includes the things that we don't want to take responsibility for. And this is where, when you work with certain schools, they really guide you through this resistance to take responsibility. They guide you to go through this fog of victim consciousness. Because once you are in that forgiveness zone, or actually, I am the source, everything is my consciousness, everything is my projection. I am the creator of this person rejecting me. I'm the creator of this person stealing all my money. I'm the creator of these people that keep betraying me, whatever it is. When you really take it back and you say it was me, then a lot of power comes back to you. Yeah. And so this 350 is very important. So when you just look at Kaballah and you look at really this David Hawkins scale, then you start to, wow, it's like, I understand it now. So this is David Hawkins, and you would almost think that maybe, I tried to find out whether Lester Levinson, the teacher of David Hawkins, was a Kabbalist, but I don't know. I do know that, David Hawkins probably studied a lot, and Lester Levinson as well. But there's so much what is it, virtualization between the two teachings, that I'm thinking like, wow, it feels like they're one teaching. So here they also say, when you're in 350 and you take full responsibility, you understand that everything is your consciousness. These horrible people, these horrible events, this world, yeah, this world is my consciousness. So, I know that Henrik was here and we were talking about Kabbalah, and he mentioned, yeah, this reminds me very much of Ho'oponopono and Dr. Hugh Len. And Dr. Hugh Len went into the hospitals and he took responsibility for all these killers and rapists in the prison. And imagine that we could all do that, because I know that some of you were messaging me and saying, yeah, but what about all these other people? I am conscious, but these other people are not. And I think the Kabbalah teachings and the release technique, and when you talk about really this pivotal point of power, is realizing that there are no other people. And this is a big teaching. This is not an easy teaching. This is teaching where a lot of people will run away. They don't want to work with you anymore. They think you're crazy, because it's not an easy teaching. But if you understand that everybody is you, every mirror is you, then you take so much power back. And I have to say, even though I've went to many, I spent a lot of money in personal development, I am ready to actually accept this Dr. Hugh Len type of responsibility for everything in the world. And why is this important? It's important to know that there's multiple timelines, yeah? So in the beginning of the Paris workshop, David said, there are multiple timelines. Every timeline is a movie. Every movie has already the actors and the plots and the events that will happen. You cannot change the plots. These timelines are already happening, have already happened, they're already playing. That movie is playing. The only thing that we can change is to choose which movie we watch and which movie we watch. So for instance, this world that we live in, yeah? And I have a big issue with victim consciousness and power, yeah? Those of you who know me really well, you know what I'm talking about. I'm always really feeling depressed and oppressed and yeah, like as if somebody is doing it to me. But this whole consciousness that I have, it's you know, if it's really my tikkun probably. And if I'm not going to resolve this tikkun of feeling oppressed or feeling defeated, deceived, feeling that something is wrong and it's not me, then that's my tikkun that I will take with me to the next life. So, but I'm so fed up with that. I want to watch another movie. I want to watch the movie where we as a whole, and all of you are me, can watch that other movie. And Kaballah also, just like David Hawkins, and just like all the other teachers say, that we, you know, a significant amount of souls can change the movie, can shift to this other movie. And so this, and creation is already done. Your fulfillment is already done. Your best case scenario, your soulmate, your money, your abundance, your health, it is already done. But watching the other movie is about basically cleaning up this distorted perception of lack and needing things outside of us to change. David has a lot of videos where he talks about loving the people that you want to do something to. And I have to say, when I watch these movies, I'm like a bit, I have a bit of a mixed feeling, right? But I am ready to experiment with that. Why? Because those of you who were in the appreciation game, Elle and I had like, I think we had this whole month just about relationships. And in that month, we were teaching appreciation. And appreciation is the opposite of the 7 toxic ways of thinking. And the 7 toxic ways of thinking are very similar to the evil speech that Kaballah talks about. And the people that were in the appreciation game that were resenting their husbands, resenting their children, resenting their mother-in-law, resenting their colleagues, when they were basically asked to actually appreciate instead of complain, bitch, and see the worst in others, and they were doing it because we were running an accountability game, we saw changes and shifts within and as little as 2 weeks. Because it was an accountability game, we're talking about 14 days of concerted effort to break through the program of being in victim consciousness and blaming other people. So I would say that, you know, it is very important that when you think about this, this taking responsibility, we're talking about some things that really almost go against our nature, meaning we have to send love and appreciate and see the best in people that are maybe like acting like, you know, the hell or the devil. Um, so 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 one of the tools that Kaballah gives us, and which was a new tool to me because this is not a tool that I use, is really called prayer. And the way that they do prayer is that the prayer is not meant to be used by the ego. Because what does the ego do? Please make the problem go away. Please, please, God, please, universe, please make this problem go away. Please make my ex-boyfriend come to me. That was me before that was my breakdown because it wasn't working. Please make my ex-boyfriend apologize to me. Please make my mother-in-law die. You know, I don't know what I'm just projecting right now. I love my mother-in-law. My husband is here. She's a beautiful woman, but I'm talking about like people like Zarna Garg and how she talks about her mother-in-law is really funny. So the ego death in the terms of the real technology of prayer is that we can no longer pray or manifest from the ego. We will have to see prayer as a tool to allow more energy to come in. And the way that David talks about it, and I don't know how other teachers do it, he talks loudly, he talks out loud to the creator. And the way that I see it, because I start doing it as well, or I actually don't talk loudly because I still think it's weird. I talk in myself to the creator. The way that I see it is, imagine that we are coming from lack and fear and wanting to control, wanting safety, wanting approval all the time. when you start to talk to the creator and you're not coming from lack, that is a big pattern interrupt. That is a big change. And this is why I think, he actually says in a lot of his podcasts that even if you are a founder of a big company, you need to spend 20% of your workday praying. And this reminds me of the people that were, the entrepreneurs in the release technique, all the retreats that I went to. A lot of people were struggling with finances, but then literally when they released on their goals, their financial goals, all of them turned around their business. But they had to do it from courage, acceptance, and peace. So they had to do it from the soul level and not from the, oh, please don't make me go bankrupt level. Yeah. So how does that look like? Let's say we are a business owner. So imagine that you are dealing with, you have a big client meeting next week. Yeah. So the way that he would talk about the prayer is actually to pray to the creator and ask how, please let me go in knowing that I am already whole. So you don't pray to get the deal. You don't pray that this client must work with me. You don't pray to land the 25 million deal, blah, blah, blah. You actually pray to let the creator talk to you, guide you, so that you know that you're already whole, so that you can expand the light and you let go of the outcome, which is this specific deal. Yeah. So imagine deal is also dating or a big important goal that you have. It could be even a health goal, right? So this is really the realm of miracles, which is that higher level of the David Hawkins scale, is open to us when we stop this incessant wanting to go for the goal which will complete us. When we can stop that, then we are really praying, and then we will get downloads. Because Kaballah teaches, listen to the downloads, the synchronicities, the messages, and the crazy ideas. So I've listened to a lot of the entrepreneurial podcast of David Ghiyam because I love the entrepreneur's spirit that he has. And all of the time, he has staff that is more educated than him, but he is the one with the downloads. He is the one that is working with the 99%. So his company, the company that he and his ex-wife runs, they are like a huge successful vitamin company, liquid vitamins company, and it's based on the downloads that they're getting. So those of you who are thinking, oh, I want this goal, but how do I know that this is really the goal? Start to pray. Start to ask for transformation. Start to be asking, talking to the creator, and whether it's in meditation or it's like through chanting or affirmation or whatever it is, start to talk to the creator about you wanting to be more like the creator. Instead of it making it about a goal, make it about your expansion. Make it about you as a soul expanding beyond that 25%. Yeah. So this is the last thing that I want to discuss. And this is really one of the biggest anecdotes that was in Paris. And he actually has it on his Instagram. So I want to show it from his Instagram. And this is really where we see how when we want something, it's not going to happen. Yeah. So let me try. So basically, this woman stood up and she said, David, you really triggered me. And so basically she said, I've been holding up my hand for, I don't know, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, but David kept ignoring her. And so what happened during this intervention is probably one of the most powerful stories of how to become attractive or magnetic instead of being in lack or in, I'm trying to get your attention, please notice me. So this woman was in the Paris workshop, and she had been raising her hand for 5 hours straight, 5 hours, hoping that David would pick her. And every time, for some reason, she was invisible to him. And many times he just walked right past her, like she was invisible. Towards the end of the seminar, I finally felt drawn to call on her. She then shared that she had been deeply triggered by me. So,
Good morning. Yeah. And you was just walking through here, going there, and I was like, he doesn't see me. He's ignoring me. And just 10 minutes before, I just asked myself, yeah, in fact, you are not letting go. You need David to hear you, to hear the question. So let go.
Wow.
Okay. First, I asked the Creator, I asked God, yeah, but can't you make David?
Wow. So good. Oh. Her first prayer was, can you make David see?
so this is, of course, the 1%, the lack and the forgetting that we're already whole, that we don't need anything, that maybe this wanting somebody to see you is your tikkun. And the more that you want it, the more triggered you are. That is where you can find the goal. That is where you can find the goal. God, make blah, 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 see me, love me, make, buy from me, whatever it is. This was the last thing she said. She passed the first test, realizing the real issue wasn't that she wasn't being seen, but that it was triggering her abandonment tikkun, her soul's correction. That awareness alone connects her to the light of miracles. Just knowing that you are activating some tikkun, that will connect you to the light because you're interrupting that pattern. You're no longer, unconscious, right? But then came the second test. Control, wanting control. So the first one was wanting approval. The second one's wanting control. Control is another one of her soul corrections. So she began to pray, but her prayer was still rooted in control or lack or wanting something outside of her to change. God, make David see me. Please let him call on me. Please, please, please. And for the next few hours, I still didn't see her. I didn't call on her. Praying for the external world to change never works. 10 minutes, as you saw her in the video, 10 minutes before David noticed her, we dove into the technology of prayer. We learned that when we're in pain, we're not meant to pray for the pain to disappear. The pain is there to be a catalyst. It's there to cleanse you. It's there to make you break down so that you can be rebuilt. The pain is a teacher. Instead, we pray to transform the part of us that is afraid, reactive, or in the program, or hurting. Praying for the external to change never works. She realized then she was praying in the wrong way. She was praying from the ego, yeah? She was praying from lack. She was praying from that 1% illusion. She was praying for me to see her or validate her. So she shifted. She realized I need to let go. She chose to pray for something deeper. She chose to pray from her soul to transform the feeling of lack that was being triggered by what felt like me ignoring her. So if you look back in your life, everything that you're not getting is actually calling you to pray or to show up in a different way. Maybe what you're asking for is the wrong thing because it's not about this achievement in the external world. It's not about the manifestation. It's not about this thing that needs to materialize. It needs to be the shift in you that is the invisible shift, that is the 99% that will cause something bigger to happen that will then show up in your world, because when you change your consciousness, the outer world has
Can you make David see?
After you have presented the technology of prayer clearly, I see, okay. So now I have to let go. Okay, so now God, it's really difficult for me. If I learn to ask my question, make it happen. And if not, it will be fine. And I will do that 10 minutes ago.
Oh my God.
So,
350. I told you about 350. 350 is praying from your soul. I don't know, actually. I am in my tikkun here. I have so many distortions, and at the same time, I'm already whole. Two polarities. The Satan in me, the ego, the program telling me I need to get it, otherwise I'll die, or I'll be in trouble, or I'll be a failure. And the other part knows the real truth, the 99%. So 99%. So if you don't know what 99% versus 1% is, maybe take like 99 pieces of tissues or cups and put then one cup with versus 99 cups and see how big the 99% is. But when you start to pray from the soul, you accept that you are both, because we chose this illusion. We chose to come down because we wanted to earn this journey to go back to this 100%. And at the same time, we understand that when we're praying from the ego, we actually don't know what is the right thing for us. So we pray for maybe this outcome that we want still from here, but we also pray for something bigger. We pray for the correction, for the light to come in. Yeah. So when she did that, magically, David saw her. He was drawn to her. Just 10 minutes after she shifted from feeling like a victim to taking full responsibility, she actually said, and I think that I know for sure they're going to sell this Paris workshop in a webinar. She actually said that she was so triggered that her whole body was shaking. Yeah. So those of you who are thinking, oh, this is like a small thing, it was really triggering to her. And so for me, you know, this was not a light thing for her. This was a really big thing for her. So she prayed to the Creator to let go of control and her need for validation. What a beautiful prayer, right? To correct your tikkun, to heal yourself, to heal this distortion that you need validation or that you need control. He was suddenly drawn to her. In the middle of the seminar, with dozens of hands raised, I felt an undeniable pull to call on her. It was as if the Creator took over my free will and made her visible to me. Her energy had shifted, and she had this powerful aura that wasn't there before. Your aura can literally shift in seconds. And help watching this video with me, it will help you, I'm sure, because all of you are really, really like doing a lot of work. This was the theme of our Paris seminar, letting go. We learned that when we feel we need something to happen for our happiness to be complete, that very thing is repelled from us. Prayer is not meant to solve a problem that is making you uncomfortable or afraid. Prayer draws a divine energy that transforms us, the vessel, our nature, who we really are, and ultimately our vibration. We get closer to that 99%, or we are literally, we are calling in the 99%. We're starting to see, we're starting to receive messages and all the gifts and blessings that can only be in the invisible world. And he calls it the realm of miracles. So, so if we go back to this, you know, I know Thomas is here. I know you were also in the Paris workshop. Is there something that I missed about this anecdote? We don't hear you. We don't hear you. This is weird. Yeah. Yeah, you're muted. Wait. Oh, I don't know. No, we don't hear you. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah. So again, if you want to calibrate it, acceptance, when you really look at acceptance, it's okay if it happens, this needy thing that I want, but it's okay if it doesn't happen. If you can really hold that with sincerity in your body, you can really feel, experience the state of being, which is nothing can be given to me or taken from me. I am whole and complete. That is the that is the David Hawkins and Lester Levinson explanation of 350. And when you look at, you know, how Kabbalah teaches, this is really the state of being where everything starts to turn around. When I think David Hawkins talks about that when you're in 350, no matter what you do, it will be successful because you are no longer in resistance to things not going well. So people who are in resistance of things not going well, they're not in 350 because they're not in acceptance. Yeah, resistance is the opposite of 350 acceptance. So Creator, help me know, part one of the prayer, Creator, help me know I'm whole and complete already. I have no lack. I have the light right now. Creator, help me know that. Prayer part two, now that I know I have everything, I request the Creator to guide me to share my light with the world. So, so I wanted to actually stop here because I actually realized I had over 66 slides, and that was just because there was so much to share because I can make so many, I have, you know, my brain just works like that. So I have, for instance, these type of slides where I'm actually literally comparing all the teachings. I'm talking about being proactive, how they teach how to stop our triggers. I'm talking about the pause technique. I want to talk about the comparison of the 99%. I wanted to talk about basically, so what I thought I would do is in the next weeks, I will prepare part two, which is about relationships, because a lot of the people in Paris, the questions were about relationships. And at one point, he actually asked people, can you please raise your hand if you're single? And I think literally 90% of the 330 people were single. And so I think relationships, and I had a big realization, and I shared this with my husband and with some close friends. And I said, imagine that the people coming to David's workshop, they are spending money on personal development. And despite them spending money, they're still, you know, experiencing all these relationship issues. Like, if these people who do the work are still experiencing relationship issues, then who, what is the hope for the world? And so this is why I want to spend the time on explaining the relationships. Also because Elle and I realized that what we did 5 years ago to heal ourselves, to get out of this 1%, get out of our ego, get out of our program, believing that we were victims, when we really let go of a lot of stuff and we looked at all the limiting beliefs, but also the competing beliefs, as Kabbalah calls them, and Abraham Hicks calls them split intentions. Those things were really what we had to work on. So when we do the part two, which is relationships, I will elaborate on that because I cannot do it in 1.5 hours. And maybe after that, I will do one about money and career because I manifested my soul twin in the world in the workshop asking my question. And I actually said to my husband, Thomas, I said, I'm not going to raise my hand because I don't want to be recorded and people to see me 15 years later thinking, oh, she has that problem. But then I manifested an Aquarian woman, because I'm Aquarian healer, songwriter, and teacher, raising her hand. She lives in Bali, and she literally asked my question. And so, and this answer was so groundbreaking, but that could be like a whole hour about how to run a business and actually what business owners struggle with. So yeah, so I hope that you guys just basically that you can actually really that you've had a lot of benefits from being here, that you basically know a lot more about Kabbalah, and a lot of you already know David Hawkins, so that will have actually helped you. So yeah, I don't know whether other people have something to share, some insights or things that they learned. Please feel free to put that in the chat or unmute yourself. I will actually stop sharing now. Um, I don't know, Tina, whether you can unmute yourself, because I know Tina knows both David Hawkins and knows release technique and Dr. Joe, and she's studying Kabbalah for several years now. So I am thinking, I don't know whether you can talk. Maybe you can give maybe some more insights. She knows more than me about Kabbalah, but if you don't want to, that's also fine. Um, but if
Hello,
you want,
everyone.
I
Hi.
don't see your beautiful picture. Are you putting the camera?
Oh, not right now.
Okay, okay. Tina is gorgeous, by the way, so it's okay. Yeah, so Tina, what did you, I mean, you know both techniques, you know it all. So what did you learn, or what would you like to add or comment?
I believe that you described so well how the prayer works. Even though I knew about this technique, I still was not using it correctly because I was asking the way I wanted to get it instead of asking for the creator to give it me the way that he wants or yeah.
To let go of this goal that you think you want. Yeah.
Yeah, so the better way is to ask the creator to guide me in my process and to show me the path, to show me the way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And when we talk about goals, a lot of you that have worked with me, I synthesize everything. So when you think of Michael Bernard Beckwith, he has 4 stages of creation. And I had the biggest breakthroughs when I knew that I was still manifesting from my ego. That is stage 2. So stage 1 is creating like a victim. Stage 2 in the Michael Bernard Beckwith framework is you're still creating from the ego. And stage 3 is surrendering your life. And God knows why, but I was like, after 2019, when I was every day running the 5 a.m. meditations for the Dr. Joe crowd, I was literally, I had this feeling that it was safe for me to surrender my life to the divine. And at that time, I bought that course from Michael Bernard Beckwith. And literally, when you actually start to say to the creator, because we're not separate from the creator, right? That's very important. We are one with the creator. When you start to surrender your life to that bigger part of you, then you're going to be on your soul path. It might not be what you think it is. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, you have put into words, I'm still digesting what you have just shared because I would say I've been applying everything and I can see that all the techniques they're related, but they are just said in a different way.
yeah, yeah,
And especially the taking responsibility for everything and everyone that has been in my life, that will be in my life. And
yeah.
also the part about looking forward towards the challenges. It's a completely different shift in consciousness and the attitude.
Yeah, yeah. No longer thinking, oh, what did I do wrong when a new challenge comes in? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and hoping for it not to happen, but instead, oh yeah, another challenge.
yeah,
I
yeah.
get to transform something about myself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think this will actually be a series because the more that I'm talking about Kabbalah and the more that I can compare it to other stuff, I mean, it feels like I have a whole lesson or class just about what is it, like acceptance. So today was a lot about acceptance and responsibility, but there's one that is all about creation and the unknown and the 99% and how we have to basically how responsibility shifts everything around. And yeah, if I look at my slides, I know again like how much stuff I have, but I mean, relationships being a big hurdle for a lot of people. Actually, I run meetup groups, and a lot of people were sending me messages asking me questions about relationships. So I want to, spend some time to actually answer those questions. But I think if you watch this specific, 1.5 hour, meeting, then you will actually know the answer already. But yeah, so thank you, Brigitte. Thank you, Victoria. Yeah, thank you, Aura. Thank you, Renata. Thank you, Fran. Yeah, so I'm very grateful, Tina, that you who've been studying more Kabbalah than I have, that you really say, oh, actually, I see that there's something that I wasn't doing. So the other thing that I wanted to share is that I had a download because I trust my downloads. My downloads is also how I met my husband, by the way, because I wasn't ready to meet anybody because I was eternally healing myself. but my downloads were go online, go online, go online. And then in the first day that I was there, I met Thomas. So, and Kabbalah has a lot of astrology. Astrology is very important. The astrology of me and Thomas is really harmonious and really beautiful. And so that was the first time that I was ever in a harmonious relationship astrologically. And I cannot emphasize how important it is to understand astrology. Although, those of us who study Dr. Joe or who study Abraham Hicks, astrology doesn't define you, but astrology gives you a weather report of what's going on in your life. And I know that it was Bruce Lipton who said that when you are highly evolved, you can actually transcend so much that astrology doesn't have any hold on you. And that is, of course, what all of us want to achieve. Yeah. So that you can see in your astrology, oh, yeah, there's going to be blah, 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 blah going on. Like, I don't know, Neptune square Saturn or Pluto, or I don't know in which house. But you can say, oh, hello, welcome. I'm going to do this. I'm going to crack this, another test to graduate. So this is really what Kabbalah has done for me. So I'm very excited to actually study more, especially from David. But in the meantime, my other download was that I had to create affirmations music, because imagine that all the teachings that we're hearing here, they're quite new. So for instance, one of the new teachings that I knew about, I felt that it was real, and I named my brand Creation is Already Done, is that creation is finished. And actually, this is what Kabbalah teaches. You have a desire because the fulfillment has already happened. It has already happened. My favorite Dr. Joe sentence, he said it in some of the walking meditations, but this sentence was like oh my God, it felt so real, but then I couldn't really grasp it. But ever since Kabbalah came into my life, it felt like something clicked in me. And so I started creating affirmation songs where I combine catchy melodies with these teachings. And so if you want to know more about this specific affirmation music experiment that I want to do, I would please go to this specific website, or you can message me about it, and you can join the waiting list. We want to test a few things that we want to do, because of course I am completely biased. But if you want to join the test and the beta launch and and I want to study how we can work with affirmations music, please let me know, and you can answer some questions, and then we will put you in the beta launch, and then we will do some fun experiments about how to reprogram ourselves. So yeah, so I'm so sorry, Thomas, that we cannot hear you for the first time it ever happened. If we don't have other questions anymore, let me see. Yeah, so if we don't have any other questions anymore, I'll try to do the relationship webinar on next Sunday. But before then, it will be Lionsgate, and I will be, streaming some of the affirmations music on YouTube. So if you want to hear it, please go to my YouTube and just subscribe, and then you will be notified when I do the live streams of the affirmations music. And a lot of the affirmations are about desire is preceded by fulfillment. It's about actually, everything I want is given by the creator, is given by our soul. And so we start to reprogram ourselves out of this unworthiness, or maybe I'm wanting too much type of thinking. And when you combine it with music, it is much more powerful. So that is what I want to test with a group. Tina, you still have your hand raised. You still want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on and thank you that although I've been studying Kabbalah for a year, I feel like that it would not be complete without the release technique and all the stuff that I have learned from you.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I hear that from actually quite a few people that know the release technique, that say actually when we actually know how to let go and how to the calibration of each stage of consciousness, it makes it much more easier. It actually is very interesting, because in the beginning, when I read Letting Go, it was like intellectual masturbation for me. It's like, what is this? I understood it, but I wasn't in my body. But now that I have been working with clients on the somatic level and on the energy level, and we're working with constellations and the quantum field, I can see the quantum field in the 99% in the work that we do. And so this is also some of the taster classes that I would like to run, because I feel in Kabbalah, I'm an Aquarian. David is an Aquarian, by the way, as well. And Aquarians are really like the visionaries, and they're here to transform. So this is why I'm finally launching the music app, because the Aquarians are visionaries transforming a lot of stuff. So all these crazy ideas that I've had, I no longer poo-poo them. I'm like, hey, I'm Aquarian. I'm supposed to do this. Also, ever since I know that Kabbalah is so immersed into numerology, I looked up my Kabbalah number, and I'm a number 5. And the number 5 are the healers and the teachers. So everything that is about my passion, about how my brain works, it's literally like, hey, I need to do this. That is how I'm going to expand my vessel. That's how I'm going to give my gifts. And that is how I will change the movie, because I really want to change the movie. I am very, very selfish. Most of you will think, why is she doing this? It's literally, I don't want to watch some of the movies that I've been living. So thank you, Louise. Thank you, Jeremy. So nice to have you here. And it would be so nice to just have, to have you regularly in the presentations that I have. It's live streamed now on YouTube, so you can watch it there again. And if you have any questions, you want me to, elaborate on certain things, please let me know. Yeah. Thank you so much. I know that I'm 20 minutes over. Have a nice day for you in the Americas, and for us in the Europe time zone. We need to sleep. Lots of love. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.